Hi, I'm the Wizard Elm. I'm one of the Sample Kings, and some of the artists that I've worked with are Dead Prez, MC Shazzy, Mikey D, Chub Rock, Jazzy J, and J&J Records, just to name a few. We'll be covering the front of the MPC3000, followed by the back, how to hook it up, how to take your first samples, how to edit your samples, how to create sequences, how to place those sequences in a song mode, how to implement MIDI, and finally, save everything to disk. This video was designed to be used in conjunction with your owner's manual, so that you'll be up and running in no time. So without much further ado, here we go. Now we're going to look at the front of our machine. The volume knob is used for adjusting the gain of the left and right stereo outputs. Our record level buttons for taking in samples. Our contrast button for adjusting our LCD screen. Next we have soft key 1, soft key 2, soft key 3, and 4 for adjusting or accessing functions at the bottom of our LCD screen. Each of the 4 pad banks contains 16 sounds. Full level enables you to play each pad at its maximum velocity. By selecting a pad and hitting 16 levels, you can play a certain sound over 16 different tunings or 16 different velocities. The note variation module is used for varying the attack, decay, filter, or tuning of a sample located in any of the 16 pads. The slider, when used in conjunction with the after button, can give you a more realistic hi-hat performance when sequencing. Next we have our data entry section, which consists of numerical keys, plus minus keys, and our alpha control wheel. We also have our arrow keys to take us to various fields within the LCD window. Next we have our command keys for entering disc mode, programming sounds, accessing our mixer functions, MIDI, song, other miscellaneous functions, sequence edit, step edit, and edit loop. On our next row we have tempo sync, transpose, simultaneous sequence, followed by auto punch, counting, and our wait for key. Beneath our arrow keys we have erase, timing correct, tap tempo, main screen, and our help buttons. Beneath those we have our auto locator points. Hitting this button takes you to the top of your sequence. Hitting this other button will take you back by 1 bar increments. This other button will take you 1 bar towards the end, and this will take you to the very end of a sequence. This middle button will take you to an exact bar once you've entered a value with your numeric keypad. I can record, overdub, start or stop a sequence with the next row of buttons. Now we're going to look at the back. First, we have our power cord receptacle for plugging in our unit. Next, we have our power switch for turning our unit on. For increased storage and speed, we can attach an optional SCSI drive such as the iOmega Zip or Jazz drive pictured here. You can record external keyboard parts using your MIDI input jacks. Plus, you can also play back MIDI data to external keyboards or modules using the setup pictured here. We can utilize the other MIDI outputs for a total of 64 MIDI channels at one time. We can also run in sync with other sequencers and drum machines utilizing MIDI clock or MIDI timecode. We can also run in sync with tape machines utilizing FSK, quarter note clicks, or SMPTE timecode. Our machine is equipped with 8 individual outputs for maximum separation of the sounds when doing multi-track recording in the studio. This cable I'm using is a snake. It has 8 1/4-inch heads on both sides so that I can efficiently route my signals to my mixing board. Also, it cuts down on the clutter and tangling that you usually get when using single strand wires. Next, we have our analog stereo inputs. This is how we'll hook up our MP when we decide that we want to take our own samples. These are your stereo analog outputs for connection to an amplifier, receiver, or tape deck. You can get your cleanest samples if you have a CD player or DAT machine with digital output. You can also raise or lower the gain if you need to on your incoming samples. You can also use headphones if you don't want to disturb your neighbors. Now that I've shown you how to hook up your machine, we're going to go on to our next section, which is sampling. Now I'm going to show you how to take your first samples. You can get samples from a cassette, which I don't like because of the tape hiss. Or one of my favorites, a turntable. But the best source for sampling is to use a CD player and a CD, such as a Sample King sample CD. Pictured here is our main screen. Most of the time the MP defaults to this page. Next, we want to take sounds into our MPC by hitting Program Sounds. If you notice on the left side, it says Programs at the top. On the right, it says Sounds. We want to be on the right side of our screen, and we're going to hit 5 for Sample New Sound. The next page that comes up is our Sample New Sound window. We can choose a digital input or an analog input by rotating our data wheel. Using our right arrow key, we can scroll over to the next field where we can choose the mode of how we want to sample. This can be stereo, mono right, or mono left. It just depends on how much memory that you have in the machine and the type of sample that you're after. If you would like to hear your sample as it's being recorded, we can scroll over to our monitor field and turn that to on. Now our length can be anywhere from 1 second to 93.4 seconds if we take a mono sample. If we take a stereo sample, our maximum time will be shown as 46.7 seconds. That means there's 46.7 seconds for each side, giving you a total of 93.4 seconds. Next, we can change our threshold from anywhere from 1 to 100. As we rotate the dial, notice there are two T's in our stereo sample. These are the thresholds. They act as a gate before actually recording the sound. A setting of 12 will give you optimal results. Your machine will not start recording until it has passed this threshold. If you'd like, you can also set pre-record for your MPC3000 to start a few seconds before it actually crosses the threshold. When ready to record, hit soft key 1 and your machine will wait for a sample input and then start recording. If you don't like what you've done, you can hit cancel. P stands for peak. That way you can tell what was the loudest level of the sound being recorded. By hitting soft key 2, you can reset your peak. Optimum samples are achieved when your sample travels about 3/4 across the screen. Now we're going to take our first sample, and I'm going to use mono left, and I'm going to set my time for about 6 seconds. This first sample is going to be that of a horn. I can play back my sample by hitting soft key 1. Or I could record that if I don't like it, or we can keep and name it. And in this case, I'm going to name it horn. This is accomplished by using our commands keys. I can spell the word horn using the step edit, wait for, erase, and count in keys. Done places me back in the sound edit page. Now I'm going to show you how to take your sample and put it into a program. To begin, what is a program? A program can be a collection of up to 64 sounds on your MPC3000. In a program, there are 64 MIDI note numbers that you can assign to 128 possible sounds currently residing in memory of your MPC3000. These numbers are 35 to 98. If you look at your MPC and hit the pads, you will see note numbers for each pad. Once a sound is assigned a note number, it can be played in 3 different ways. You can play it from a keyboard, or you can hit a front drum pad, or by a sequence. Most times we at Sample Kings use sequences to do this. For each sound, you can modify the envelope, tuning, filter, mix, or velocity response data. Let's look at the effects of each. With envelope, we can control the attack of the sample. With tuning, we can change the key of the sample. With filter, filter changes the EQ of a sample. Mix changes the level of the sample. Velocity changes the touch sensitivity of a sample. Your MPC can have up to 24 different programs in memory. This is similar to a patch change on a keyboard, each with its own unique set of 64 assignments. Each program contains the following data: program name, note numbers for each of the 64 pads. Sound assignment mode and related parameters. Envelope attack decay. Velocity or modulation of volume. Attack and start address. Tuning. Poly assignment. Cut off assignments. Filter settings. Volume and pan. Individual out or effects level. Note variation slider assignment and parameter range limits and effect settings. To create a program, hit Program Sounds followed by the 1 key. Choose a pad and using your alpha control wheel, put the name of the sample on the pad that you want. If a sound is stereo, you will notice an ST to the right of that sound name. Notice that you have a mode field in your window. This is usually set for normal. When this is set to normal, only the sound that is assigned to that note number will play. When this option is selected, you will also notice that there is a general MIDI name for the note. If we set this for simultaneous, we can play up to 2 additional sounds whenever one note number is hit. This is good for layering sounds. If we turn our mode field to velocity switch, then it is possible to trigger one of 3 sounds depending on how hard a pad or note is struck. If you strike a note and its velocity is greater than the value in the first if over field, but less than or equal to the value of the second if over field, then only the note number selected in the first use field plays. If the received note's velocity is greater than the value in the second if over field, then only the sound assigned to the note number selected in the second use field plays. This is good for simulating hi-hats. Our next mode is the decay switch. If selected, this function works very much like the velocity switch option, except that in this case, one of 3 sounds will play depending on the current envelope decay setting instead of the note's velocity setting. Earlier we discussed that we could edit certain program parameters such as envelope, velocity, tuning, or poly function of a sample. To edit these program parameters, press Program Sounds key followed by option 2, and the following screen will appear. Let's look at the envelope section. The attack field is used to vary the envelope or attack time of the sound. This can be set from 0 to 5,000 milliseconds. The decay field is used to vary the envelope's decay time. This too can be set from 0 to 5,000 milliseconds. The decay MD field is used for setting 2 options: the start decay and the end decay times of your sample. This is useful for creating a smooth fade out just before the end of a sample sound. The tune field sets the tuning. Its ranges from -240 to +240 in increments of 0.1 semitones. You have 3 options with the poly field. In poly mode, Multiple plays of a sound are assigned to additional voices, allowing polyphonic playback. This is useful for sounds like ride cymbals, where you don't want the new notes to cut off old notes. In mono, multiple plays of the same sound terminate and restart the playback of the sound. That means there's no overlap. This is used for stuttering effects. When using the note off field, when a pad is released, the sound is terminated. This is useful for controlling long samples. If you'll notice, there are also two cut-off fields. Whenever a note selected in the top line's note field is played, then any currently playing sounds assigned to either of the note numbers in these two fields are immediately cut off. This is useful when it is desired that one sound stops another from playing, such as a closed hi-hat stopping an open hi-hat, or a muted triangle stopping an open triangle. Each of these two fields allows a note number to be entered. In each case, the pad currently assigned to that note number is displayed to its right. To disable this feature in either of the two fields, enter a note lower than 35, and off will appear in the screen indicating that there is no note selected to be cut off. Pressing the play soft key has the same effect as playing the selected note number at full velocity. Now we'll take a look at the dynamic filter. Again, you will notice that it has a title line. This tells you the program number that you are currently editing, along with the note number to be edited. On the next line, we have our frequency field. This is the cutoff frequency of the low-pass filter. It can be set from 0 to 100. The velocity greater than frequency field sets the amount of effect velocity has on the filter frequency. So the harder we hit a sample, the more open the filter is going to be. Our next field is the resonance field. This is the resonance of the filter at the cutoff frequency. Its range is from 0 to 15. Raising this value changes the high frequency content of this sample. On our next line, we see the filter envelope section. To the left, we see the attack field. This is the filter envelope attack time. This can be spaced from 0 to 5,000 milliseconds. Next to that, we have our decay field. This is the filter envelope decay time. This can also be set from 0 to 5,000 milliseconds. And next to that, we have our amount field. This is the amount of effect that the envelope has on the cutoff frequency. This can be set from 0 to 100%. If you're the creative type, experiment with your values. See what kind of sounds you can make. As you get more familiar with your machine, you can hit option 4 from our program sounds menu, and you'll see that you can copy a program data of one note to another note. It doesn't matter if they're in the same program. You can also copy one program over another one. Or you can initialize one singular program, and you can also initialize all programs. If you'd like to know more about this, you can consult with your Akai owner's manual. Okay, let's review. We set our levels. So far we took samples, and then we assigned those samples to a program. Now I've just recorded my first sample, and the first thing that I want to do is edit it. During this next section, we're going to learn how we can edit a sound's parameter data, including initial volume, initial tuning, soft start address, soft end address, and how to automatically find the best soft start address. We'll also be learning how to edit the sound sample data. This will include copying a portion of a sound and inserting the copy at any other point within that same sound or a different sound. We'll also learn how to delete, reverse, or silence any portion of the sound. To edit a sound, press the Program Sounds key followed by 6, and the following screen will appear. You'll notice that there are two parts to this screen: Sound Params and Edit Samples. Sound Params permits the editing of certain parameters stored within the sound file that affect its playback. Edit Samples permits actual editing of the sound sample data. One of the things you'll notice is that the MPC3000 also alphabetizes all samples in its memory. So as you decide which sample you want to edit, you'll see them appear alphabetically in a list right here on your screen. Looking at our screen, under Sound Params, we see we have Soft Start. There are three interrelated fields. The first one is seconds. This can be 0 to 999. The second is milliseconds, also 0 to 999. And the third is samples, and this field is from 0 to 43. Our machine samples at 44.1 kilohertz, so there are approximately 44 samples to a millisecond. Increasing this value above 000.000.00 will cause the sound to start playback from a location later than the actual start. Soft start, but it will retain the unused beginning portion of the sound. It is possible to delete this unused portion by pressing the Do Soft key. To find the best soft start address for the sound automatically, use the Best Start Soft key. The next field we have is the Soft End field. When a sound is played, it actually stops not at the absolute end of the sound, but rather at a position within the sound. This works exactly as our Soft Start field. Decreasing this value below the address in the length field will cause the sample to stop playing sooner than the actual end, but will not delete the unused end of the sound from memory. However, the end can be deleted from memory by using the Do Soft key. Now we're going to look at our length field. This field shows the total size of the sound in seconds, milliseconds, and samples. This field is for indication only. It cannot be edited directly. Next, we have our volume percentage field. This is an initial volume control for the sound and affects all outputs. The range is from 1% to 200% and is set initially for 100%. The purpose of this parameter is to adjust the sound's volume to be roughly equal to the levels of other sounds. Next, we have our tune field. This is an initial setting for the sound. This tuning value adds to the other tuning values found in the program and to each of the notes variation tuning data. The range is from -120 to +120 in increments of 0.1 semitones. The purpose of this field is to adjust the sound's tuning to be at the center of its range. Next, we have our Play Soft key. Pressing this soft key plays the sound from its soft start address to its soft end address at full velocity. Next, we have our Best Start Soft key. This automatically finds a point within a sound, bypassing all dead space at the beginning of the sound, which could cause play delays. Pressing this soft key causes the following screen to appear. This works by searching through the sound for the earliest sample that exceeds the threshold entered into the start threshold field. To find the best start, enter a number into the field. 5% usually is a good starting point. Next, press Do It. At this time, the edit screen reappears with the soft start field set to the optimum starting value. You can experiment with this value until you get it just right. Now we're going to look at the right side of our edit screen. First, we have our zone start, followed by our zone end. These two fields are used to edit the actual sample data. They define the start and end of a zone to be altered with the do field and do soft key. Next we have our play X field. This field works in conjunction with the play X soft key. Pressing this button auditions any portion of the sound before editing. When the play X key is pressed, it plays a portion of the sound that is currently selected in the play X field. Some of the options are all, which will play the entire sound, zone, which will play from the start to the end of the zone, or temp, which will play the current contents of the temporary storage area. We have before zone, which will play the portion of the sound before the zone start, followed by after zone, which will play the portion of the sound after the zone end. We also have before soft start and before soft end, which will play the portion of the sound before the soft start or play the portion of the sound after the soft end. Next we have the do field. This field works in conjunction with the do soft key. We can copy the zone to the temp, or we can insert the temp to the zone start or the zone end. We can also delete zone. We can delete before soft start or soft end. We can reverse zone. We can even silence the zone. Other powerful editing functions that we can perform with our 3000 are to rename, copy, delete a sound, convert a stereo sound to a mono sound, or delete all sounds. To do any of these functions, we hit Program Sounds followed by Option 7. Our first field is the Select Sound field. It is used to select the sound to be renamed, copied, or deleted. To do this, press the pad where that sound is currently assigned. If this sound is a stereo sound, ST will be displayed to the right of the sound name. Next we have the Play Soft key. Pressing this soft key plays the select sound at full velocity through the stereo outputs. Next we have the Rename soft key. Pressing this soft key causes a new field called New Name to appear below the Select Sound field. Enter the new name in the New Name field. Once you have the name entered, press Do It and the sound will be renamed. Next we have our Copy soft key. Pressing this soft key causes a new field, Name for a Copy, to appear below the Select Sound field. Enter the name for the copy in the Name for Copy field. Pressing Do It will copy the sound under the new name. Next we have our Delete soft key. If the sound is stereo, a new field called Mode appears. The options for mode are Delete Sound, delete left side, convert to mono, or we can delete right side and convert to mono. Pressing Do It performs the selected function. Notice the absence of the ST. We now have a mono sample. Pressing Delete All will delete all sounds from memory. Remember, do not use this function unless you absolutely mean to do this, because this will remove all sounds from memory. Make sure you've saved them to disk, especially if you can't get them back. You must become familiar with your main page before you can actually sequence. Pictured here is our title line. It also tells us the status of record. When the screen looks like this, record is disabled. When your screen looks like this, we can record or overdub any sections that we would like to add to our sequence. Our next field is the sequence field. We can select from 1 through 99, and we can also name our sequence up to 16 characters. Our next field is the BPM field, where we can select BPMs, or frames per beat. We can even set our BPMs from 48 through 300 BPMs. This next field, when set to SEQ or sequence, each sequence has its own tempo. When set to master, all sequences within the machine default to the same tempo, or BPM. Our next field is a time signature field. You can't change this. This is used for display purposes only. This particular sequence is set for 4 4s. The next field tells us the amount of bars that we have in the sequence. Again, that is also used for display purposes. And after that, we have our loop field, where we can set our machine to loop this sequence to bar 1 or bar 2, or any other bar depending on the number of bars you have in your sequence. If you don't want your sequence to loop, you can set this to off. Below this field, we have our track data, where we can select our tracks anywhere from 1 to 99. We can name our track. We can select the track type, either a drum track or a MIDI track. And we can turn our track on or off. The next field we have is our channel field. This can be set to off if we're just using our drum pads. If we are using keyboards, then you would set this to a number between 1 and 16, and you would also select the output port for MIDI to communicate with your external devices. Remember, there are 4 parts, giving you a total of 64 MIDI channels. We can also name our synthesizers. Next to the ampersand, we can also play on a different channel and port. If we don't want to do this, we can leave this as off. Our next field is the velocity field. This can be set from 0 through 200%. This is used to vary the velocity of the played part. We can also choose the program or patch number remotely from our MPC. On the next line, we have our now field. This tells us our location in the sequence. This field gets updated anytime we use our transport keys or our auto location keys. In this next section, we're going to actually use our samples and make a sequence.
First of all, you may go out and buy a CD that has some, loop on the beat somewhere. You want to loop something up from a record or whatever it is. Well, when you get that sample, you need to find the 1 or the beginning of the sample, where it starts from 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have a sample right here in my MPC. I'm going to play it. Yeah, I like that. I like that. See that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I'm going in time with the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, you want to get the machine to interpret what you're doing. Now, to do this in real time, you need to know the tempo. That means the speed at which the sample is moving at, which is BPMs, beats per minute. Now, there's a thing here on top of our MPC, a button called Tap Tempo. From there, you can tap the tempo in. I'm going to tap a tempo in right here. I'm going to hit a beat. Now, I tapped it in. I think the beat's gonna be at this tempo. I have 87 here. Now what I like to do sometimes is go to step at it, go to the first beat, so I'll rewind there, the beginning. And on the first beat I want to put the sample in. I'll tap the sample right here, and it goes in that first beat, on the first bar. Now since it's a 1 bar loop, that means 1, 2, 3, 4, then loop back to 1. I can make maybe 16 bars, but I'll put the beat in every bar. It'd be like, let's say, on the 1, on the 2, on the 3, on the 4. That means it'll be on the first measure, the second measure, the third measure, and the fourth measure, on the first beat of each of those measures.
Shorter sequences are easier to loop than long ones.
See, it's looping. Because I put the beat on the 1 of the first measure. I made sure my sequence was only 1 measure. You can make it 2 measures. If you do, make sure you put the beat on the first beat of the second measure, or second bar. Now some manufacturers sell you samples say, okay, it's the first measure, first bar. Bars and measure the same thing. 1 bar is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 measure is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 whole unit. The sample starts here and ends, and you start again. Right in time, the right speed is measured by the BPMs. This is very important. As you can see, we're looping up here. All I did was tap the tempo in. I thought it was good. I put my sample on the first beat of the first measure. Press play, and I looped up. If I had a problem, I would have said, okay, it's close. Well, I may punch in 87.1, or 86.9, or 86.8. You may not tap it in perfectly each time, but you want to get at least as close as possible to the BPMs that guide your beat. Am I right there? Absolutely. Oh, we know what we're doing. We ain't messing around. We're the sample kings, and nobody does it better. Next sequence section, I'm going to show you some more.
We often see a lot of guys who do their production at home get this wrong. They don't use their metronome, or they don't know how to count bars.
Hit that sample, and hit on the 1. Hit on the part you want to start at. Hit on the... See that? Yeah. To be able to hit your sample, trigger it the way you want to trigger that sample, but make sure that you're hitting it right where you want to hit it at. You want to have like a space of air in front of your sample, and you're like, I don't know if I'm right there or not. And you'll have some noise. You must hit your sample and trigger it from where you want to hear the sound from it come from. Like hit it. Bass drum. Anyway, sax, you know, whatever you sample, get the beginning perfect. It's very important. It'll save you time, and it'll save you time also in sample memory.
Another thing you can do is not to cut your sample until you've actually looped it and have it gone to a metronome. This way, if you have to make any slight adjustments, you can, while the sample is still actually bigger than what you need.
Get to the very end of the sample where you want it at. Make sure your loop starts and ends on time. Out. See that? 2, 3, 4. It's out of here. I don't want a bunch of noise in the back of it. I want it to be clearly heard, and when it leaves, it's gone. And when it loops, it's looping. You want to have that clean, pristine sound, but you also want to have the beginning and the end perfect. The only way to operate. I'm telling you. All right, here we go. Now, we'll do some sequencing. You heard the sample. We've got it looped. Here it is. All right, feeling good, right? All right, I got a bass drum. Where's that? Right there. I got a snare drum. Got a hi-hat. A little hip-hoppy type sounding stuff. Of course, a little sax, a little funky guitar, and a few vocals. You know, gonna mix it up a little bit. These are just little bitsy samples. You can find and get your samples from CDs like the Great Sample Kings CDs, like we sell. Fantastic sounds, great beats, and great bass lines. But you know it, we're the Sample Kings. Enough of our commercial, check it out. The beat is now looped up. I'm looping the beat. I feel some bass drum. I'm gonna talk with the bass drum. Oh, nice. Try that. Oh, yeah. That was a metronome. Sound right in time. Was looking 1, 2, 3, 4 hours for us. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. The metronome is the loudest on the one. I like that. Snare down. Oh, I like that. That's funky, man. You feel that? Yes, I am feeling that, brother. Oh, let me get a little hi-hat on there. Hold hi-hat. Do you, man? Yeah. Woo, I'm feeling that. Yeah, kick it, locking it, making it flow, what you know. Yeah, diggity. That's right. See that? Several samples, bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat, couple of vocals, I found a guitar. That sounds whack to me. I'm erasing. I'll press the erase button, mix the sound. Holy, it's good. Amazing. I love this machine. Oh, yeah. Oh, I felt that was slow, man. Oh, yeah. That's an action pattern. Oh, now look. That's a sequence. Got a loop. I got a sample on there. A sample on there. They're all samples. Play it together in time. Quantize my function back. I got a quarter of quantize. This means that I've got my sequence set for quantization of 1/16. That's important. And that's pretty quick. Not bad, right? Next, we're gonna do some MIDI stuff. Now, Dave, for this MIDI stuff, I'm gonna need you to do some fat keyboards for me. I'm gonna get a MIDI channel now. I'm gonna go to another track, a separate track altogether. This track is going to be track 2. I'm going to use MIDI channel 1. Now, using MIDI, you need to read books on MIDI or get our something's MIDI video. On our MIDI video, to learn more about MIDI. But it's pretty simple to us. It's 16 different channels. You can have an instrument on any channel you'd like to have it on. Use maybe another keyboard. If you're going to MIDI it up to another keyboard module, which will have keyboard sounds like a bass line, horns or whatever, a lot of keyboard modules have sounds, and we use that along with our samples. Today, we're going to show you how we can use it in our MIDI production center. Now, Dave's the keyboard player I work with a lot of times. We do a lot of tracks here in New York, and we've had a lot of fun using the MPCs over the years. We had the 61st, right, Dave?
That's correct.
And then we had the MPC3000, which we really love a lot. We had a 62 when that came out also. So right now, Dave's gonna play a little keyboards. Play the keyboard for a second, Dave. Oh, he tricked that sound. Now play it again, Dave. See that? He triggered the samples on the keyboard. That's what MIDI does. See, because these pads are like a keyboard. Each pad has a MIDI note. Those MIDI notes correspond to the notes on the keyboard. And so when I turn the knob here, and you heard him trigger the samples, well, hey, that's because, play it, do it again. See? He triggered the samples. Because the keyboard acts as a trigger, it takes off the pad. In MIDI, you can do that. MIDI out of here, MIDI into your MPC3000. Now I'm back to the chord track. Let's kill chords. I like those chords are nice. I like those chords. Nice. I love it. Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, now you're getting funky. Well, I gotta back some stuff up here. Ideas. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go here, press overdub and play. Erase some parts I don't want to have here. I'll pull out this part here for the vocals. I'll take the saxophone out. So I hold down erase and I press the sign I want to erase. So I'm going right back into the same channel. But a keyboard part. I like that. That's nice. Oh yeah. I can feel that. The flow is just right. Yeah, I like that. See, it's funny keyboards. I will now go ahead and loop that up. But you must know how many bars it is. So watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Loop. You see that? You must be aware of 1, 2, 3, 4 always. Now mine is 2 bars. I'm gonna make it 4. Let me go right here to sequence edit. And we're gonna copy. I'm gonna copy bars. I'm gonna go over here. And we're gonna add one more. Do it. And now, I got 4 bars. I'm gonna start from the beginning, give a little metronome count. Cool, loving it. You ready, Dave? Here we go. 1, 2. I do know what to do. I'm feeling it. I like it. That's kind of funky, bro. I hear you. That's the way to go. Yeah. That's enough right there, right? That's enough. That's it. That's 4 bars. Nice. Yeah, see that? He's not playing anymore. I stop it. I will play from the top. See that? We have just recorded in the keyboard. And we can add some stuff to it. Oh yeah. A sample along with the sound. I'm feeling that now. I'm feeling that. Oh, I'm feeling that. Yeah, I'm feeling that good. Yeah. Like a toss, I'm too bad. Try that. What's off there? Look at my quantizer bar.
Quantize or autocorrect is used to move all notes played onto the nearest beat or subbeat selected. This results in perfect timing. To use the quantize function, you must first specify the type of beat you want the notes to be placed on or move towards. These values can be eighth notes, eighth note triplets, 16th notes, 16 triplets, or 32nd notes. To get a feel of how these two parameters work, go to a blank sequence, hit play, and hold timing correct while touching one of the pads.
Anyway, what we're gonna do now, we're gonna add to what we've laid down. I have a drum loop, I put a bass, a snare, and a hi-hat, and we added some keyboards, what Dave did, no diggity right here. And we're gonna add one more part. We got a sound we always love is a wow wow, one of our favorite classic sounds. We have a new MIDI track. The keyboard is on track, excuse me, MIDI channel 1 on track 2. This new wow wow part will be on MIDI channel 2 on track 3. Track 1 is my drum loop, track 2 is my MIDI keyboard, and my new sound is the next overdub. That means I'm adding on, I'm overdubbing and adding on the track. So play something, let's see what we got going. Let's see something. Oh, nice. I love this sound. Nice. Now watch, I'm gonna record. When he's playing, I'm gonna record. I'm recording while he's playing. I'll tell him when to stop. That's overdubbing. See, I'm overdubbing while it's going along. Stop. 4 bars right there. I got it. Watch this. I press solo. I can hear that sound now. Solo. Wow, amazing. I'm back with the groove again. That song was overdubbed. Overdubbed is like the top. Overdubbed is perfect. You love it. I love it. It's cool. It's cool. That's it. Now, one more about sequencing. Sometimes if you're real good and you understand about step mode or about where you want to put a certain beat at, whether on the 1, the 2, or in between the 1, the 2, or 3 and 4, you go to step mode, you put that beat where it's at, it's going to be there.
For every quarter note click, our drum machine resolves at 96 ppq. So in 1 bar, there are 384 ppqs. ppqs stand for pulses per quarter note.
Read more about that in your manual. Always, no matter what we say, always use your manual constantly to refer back to what we're telling you. It's important. You know, sometimes it seems hard, but it'll help you out so much more because we're just trying to explain it to you, but the manual explains it, you know, just the way Akai likes to be explained. Now, any more questions? You can always call us at Sample Kings or get our fat CDs and get some of our samples. Because you know something? No one does it better. We're the Sample Kings. Am I right?
You are correct.
Am I right, O?
That's right.
You know it. Hey, so look, I was going to show you some more.
Now we'll use song mode on our 3000 to arrange our sequences in order that we want them.
I want to bring in maybe a singer or a rapper, or who knows, maybe Dave's mom might want to come and do some gospel to it. You never know what's going to happen. What you need to do, you got to have and know what to do, is to make sure you got a song sequence. You want to have your intro. That can be just a beat by itself. Then you're going to have maybe the first chorus or verse. Then there's the first verse, then a chorus, maybe a bridge, a post-bridge, pre-chorus, verse. You can go forever, man. Hey, ending, revamp ending, the remix, oh my God, off of this one track. You're going to have so many sequences. But you must put them in order. You've got to have the first sequence first, the intro, then maybe our chorus here, then our verse, a little break, pre-chorus, then a chorus, then a breakdown section, the back, just a beat in that part. Well, the whole idea here is to maybe take your sequence and arrange it out into several sequences. So you can have each sequence could be a separate section of the song. And that's how I like to work. It's really great. It's really cool. And you're gonna love it. It's fantastic. Now here you can see, I've got a loop here going. I can, for example, turn a track off, copy that sequence. I'll have another sequence without, let's say, the keyboards. Let's do that right now. No keyboard. I mean, no beat, sorry. See that?
Solo thing.
I go to my next sequence. That's my next sequence. Amazing. Now my little wow sound. See, my third sequence. You can have 3 different sequences and make them into a song form. You go to song mode, you put your sequence right there in step order. It's very simple to follow. I was already showed you or showing you, or if you've already learned by that by now, then go to the next part of the tape, but this is the way to do it. As you can see, all we did was edit our sequences, press your soft key, 3 and 4 to go up, whatever step you want to go to, and enter the number of the sequence you want in that step, and you can play a sequence from play start, or from where the sequence is at in play. It's very simple.
This next section covers dysfunctions. Now we're going to learn how to save our samples, how to save our sequences and songs, so that we can load them up at a later date.
See, this is a disc. This is a 3.5 disc. If you use a DD double density, you're only going to get about 793 blocks. So on a high density disc, you can save twice as much memory. That's pretty simple. So you get your disc, flip this button down, we got a disc, it's ready to be used. Take this just like that, flip it over, take this sucker, pop it right in there like that. See that button come out like that? Perfect. Now, we go to disc. Hey, we're in disc. We see disc mode. First thing we want to do is press format. We want to format this disc. So we press 9. It says here, copy, format, or format other. We ain't trying to format a hard drive, we're going to try and format the disc. You press 2. Now once we finish formatting that disc, we want to save all songs, all sequences. We press 2. See that there? When it's ready to go, you press do it. Again, the disc section, and we're going to save all the sounds. Press 4. Pick the program you want, it'll save that program. Just press do it, it saves the program. Next thing you want to do is save your parameters. That's system parameters. That means that, for example, when I set the machine up to do those 2 bars, well, it'll save that. So every time I turn this machine on, those parameters will be the same no matter what. You always want to save your parameters. So you go over here, you press save parameters, you hit 6, you're ready to go. And you're in there. That's all there is to it. Once everything's saved, pop that disk out, flip that up like that, we're in Write Protect. That means it protects you from overwriting on this disk. And you got your information all saved on here, you're ready to go. So always save your samples when you're doing stuff. When you get a sequence you like, save it. So constantly be saving everything you do, and you should have no problems. If you have any questions, call us up at the Sample Kings. The number's on the screen. And you know the deal, nobody does it better.